I got to get ready here. This is going to be a big one. The Anvil Liberator. The Anvil Liberator. Now, I have to confess that before we really get rolling here, CitizenCon this year fell right on Canadian Thanksgiving. It was kind of unfortunate, and I was away for the entire weekend, so I didn't even get to see CitizenCon when it happened. I had to watch it after the fact. But I was able to see the Anvil Liberator as I was, making my voyage to my destination. And I looked at it and I just kind of went like, okay, show me more. Okay. And I'm flipping through the pictures and I'm like, all right. And so then I popped over to Reddit and I was like, what are people saying about this? And I went, oh no. Slow down, guys. Slow down. It's a good ship, but it's not that good. It's a fine ship. It's a decent ship. It's a ship that Star Citizen should have. In a weird way, I kind of look at it as almost like a variation on the Carrack. Now, some people say, oh no, the Carrack's for exploration. It does science. It does all these other things. Right. This kind of emphasizes more the role of carrying things to a destination, whereas the Carrack is the explorer. This is more of the exploiter of those resources that the Carrack would find, or those locations or points of interest that the Carrack might happen upon. This allows this would kind of follow in with the Carrack and bring the equipment, the people, the personnel to, do whatever you have to do with that site. And I really do like this ship. I do. However, there is a single glaring flaw with its design, though it is not crippling. Now, when the Corsair first came out, there was many things that I was very excited about, but there was one thing that I didn't really like. I said, the side turrets, not really all that great. You know what would be even better? Take all 4 of those guns, put them in a single turret, stick it on the top, stick it on the bottom, boom, solid. But, it's not the end of the world. On the Liberator, the turret placement it's really bad. It's horrible. Essentially, one field of fire, 2 turrets more or less facing off in the same direction, and in very limited angles, obscuring one another from being able to fire. That's awful. That is absolutely awful. I don't know why. I don't know what the motivation was or what they were thinking, but this ship needs the turrets on top plus a match set on the bottom. Minimum, and an argument. Once we get closer to launch, an argument could be made for, perhaps somewhat of an upgunning. It seems a little slender in the armaments department, and that to me, it's not so much a question of, well, it's not really designed for combat. This, I feel, was like clipping its wings a little too far. So that really is the outstanding operational issue that I see with the ship. There's another thing that we're going to talk about, which is theoretical, but this is the big one. Is for me, the turrets, terrible, but not the end of the world. It's very easy for CIG to fix it. The primary, or one of the primary functions, of course, is transporting ground troops. And when I saw this image here and I saw, the Nova tank rolling off it, I was like, solid, good, because a lot of people were kind of going like, oh, I don't know, and it's like, nope, there it is. So that means Nova, that means ballista, Boom, boom, solid. You can get the biggest, heaviest, ground vehicles into a location. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. This is something that up until very recently, in fact, up until the last patch, we didn't have a ship in the game capable of doing that, even though we've had at least one of these vehicles, the Ballista, in the game for over a year. And so to finally be able to transport it to a place of consequence and use it as it's intended, with the Hercules so far, and now with the Liberator, I like it. When the Liberator arrives, it is going to help kind of transform that type of gameplay. And along with that, it's not just the ability to transport ground vehicles, but it's also the fact that unlike other ships like the Valkyrie, where CIG had to more or less be dragged kicking and screaming into turning the cargo bay that's not a cargo bay, but actually a vehicle cargo bay into an actual cargo bay. If you'll remember that more than a year-long struggle to say it's a box that contains cargo. Can we put cargo in it? No, only vehicle cargo, not cargo. What's the difference? Reasons. We finally have won that battle, and we now have an actual cargo bay on the ship, and not just kind of a cargo bay or a little bit of a cargo bay, a really good one. 400 SCU of cargo space is a lot. That's just a bit shy of what the Caterpillar Pirate can carry, or the Caterpillar can carry. That is really, really great. So when you're going out there on the ground, whether you're going to mine or attack a ground fortress, you can bring along the supplies that you need or take away the booty or the prize from that raid. If you remember, for the longest time, we had that one, drug mission where you would go down and they'd say, okay, you can destroy the drugs, but you could also steal them. But you had to do onesies and twosies, and it was a real pain in the ass. Now you've finally got a ship that you can carry down there along with your troops, and it can bring all of these things away. Now, of course, the Hercules kind of does it, but to me, it seems like this ship has a little bit smaller of a footprint. So it opens up possibilities there. And I think that that's a really good thing. Now, the one thing that this does over and above the Hercules, which I think kind of puts it in the lead to a certain degree, is it can also act as a landing pad for spaceships or smaller spaceships. Now, when you think about the ships that this thing can carry along, they're not the biggest ships in the game. I would say maybe I have to see some more definitive information, but maybe you can land a Cutlass Red or a Cutlass Black on there. But fighters for certain, and this is certainly something that is going to really help the fighter situation in Star Citizen. We've talked about the fighter situation many, many times, and CIG has taken different steps over the years to kind of ameliorate that or to mitigate the concern over, all these ships can go into deep space, but the fighters can get there, they just never get back unless you have spent a metric truckload of money on the Idris or later on the Kraken. The Javelin to a certain extent as well. I don't know, have they sold the Bengal to one of those Omega supporters yet? Maybe one day, but the idea that this thing can transport fighters out into space, it's certainly going to give fighters a little bit more of a reach, and it's also going to open up the door to organizations that don't quite have access to those resources and may not have it for a while but want to go out into deeper and deeper space. And if you plan to keep your footprint small and you're not taking this thing out and saying, well, we've got a pocket carrier now, so we're going to take on all the fleets in the game, you're probably going to end up opening up a lot of gameplay for yourself and your org through something like this. It's just, don't bite off more than you can chew. Now, in larger fleet actions, this ship might be fine with a large fleet around to support it. But if you're kind of going out, just you and your friends, maybe a few ground vehicles, maybe a couple of fighters to go out and do some exploring, trying to find good resources or find a good point of interest to attack, invade, rob, whatever, this is probably going to be a fairly solid ship. Unsupported, this thing, if found, could be in a lot of trouble, and so would be the people who operate it. Now, Reddit, and this is kind of what we were alluding to earlier, once again why we're showing this image, is that there were people on Reddit who were already proclaiming this as, oh, well, all you got to do is line up a bunch of Nova tanks or ballistas on the front end of it, and it's a mobile gun platform. It's a mobile missile platform, and you're just going to wreck everybody. And there were some people who were kind of alluding to that, and there were some people who just got totally carried away. Not confirmed, not known, not likely. So settle down. Remember that when you kind of say stuff like this, which is kind of why people like me tend to be very cautious around a lot of ships, it's because I don't want to, I'm not telling you to spend your money on this. I'm giving you an opinion, one of a multitude that you should seek out before parting with a large amount of money, because if you go with the hype mob, you're more than likely going to find yourself disappointed, angry, and on the refund Reddit rather than the Star Citizen Reddit. A lot of Star Citizen's most ardent, detractors these days were actually, a lot of them were Star Citizen's most influential backers in the early days. They were the people who were just like, oh yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be the greatest game ever. Oh my God, Chris Roberts, my hero. I have a Chris Roberts tattoo. Yay. And then something turned out not the way they wanted it to be. And then, or the way they had fantasized it to be. And then they were out for blood. And there you go. Now, of course, the protracted wait has not helped things, delay after delay. But that is kind of the truth. A lot of the people who despise Star Citizen and CR are the same people who were just ultra mega pro Star Citizen only a few years back. And then something happened and they just snapped. That being said, when I look at a ship like this and I think of it from a tactical point of view, my first target, if I'm going up against a smaller fleet and I see one of these, my first target is going to be that ship. Absolutely. I'm going to lean everything onto that one small ship. I'm going to be like, everybody dump on it right now, especially if it keeps those stupid turrets. Because people are like, oh no, you can shoot down the incoming torpedoes. Yeah, from one angle. Above and on the level, if you can get them in time. Coming from the bottom, coming from above, coming from the sides, you're in a lot of trouble. And you're going to have a lot of people gunning for you with missiles and torpedoes. And you're really just not going to be able to effectively defend that ship. It's just the sad reality of the situation. So if you're thinking of using it as, the command base for your fleet and taking it into direct action or anywhere where the enemy can see it or can find it, that's a bad idea. That is a really bad idea. However, if you're using this as a bridge to much bigger things that you plan to not buy out of game but in game, things like the Idris, things like the Kraken, not a bad idea. Not a terrible idea. Now, some people will call the ship cheap. Some people will call the ship expensive, of course. But when you kind of look at the interior and you see how things are laid out, it's not the most expansive ship interior, but it's not all that far off of something like the Nautilus, really. The Nautilus, of course, is bigger, but this isn't... It's not bad, but you can definitely see where the price difference kind of comes in. And I feel that it really comes in that this has obviously got way more cargo. and has more potential in certain areas than the other ships do, but that very limited weaponry is where it kind of comes in at the $500. I think that it was overdone. It was kind of over nerfed in that way, and it needs a little pick me up, and it needs a little helping hand. Now, once again, I don't own this, and I'm not planning on buying it, but I would probably end up being more likely the person that targets it. I do agree. Like, I do feel that this needs a little bit more combat oomph, though. We'll wait and see what the shields do and the armor does. Those are things that, despite some of the more hilarious claims out there, has not really reared its head. And it's, oh, well, they got hit points and same things. Like, no. Tell that to the Nova tank when it first came out. They don't have it figured out yet. I feel that there's a lot of potential. This is, I would look at this, if you're using it for its intended purposes and you're keeping your hype down and you're keeping your practicality up, this is a good ship. It is a good ship. Is it the ship for me? No, but it could be the ship for you. It needs a little bit of a help, but overall, one of CIG's better designs, in all honesty. Now, I kind of want to come all the way back to the first image, because this kind of reinforces the simplicity of the ship. 2 pontoons, little walkway down the center. We've talked about ships like this in the past. We've talked about this as a variation of the Anvil Crucible in the past when we were trying to drum up some support for getting the Crucible moving in Star Citizen. And this kind of imparts some of those ideas, but I think that this is something far more important. And there is something else here to discuss about this ship, is this is function trumping form. And this is an important juncture. This is an important kind of jumping off point, because there are a lot of beautiful ships in Star Citizen that when you fly them or you navigate their interiors make absolutely no frickin' sense. None whatsoever. And their interior layouts of some of the ships in this game, especially the early ones, are probably more indicative of a catastrophic brain injury than an astute knowledge of architecture for video games. You know, it's just like, what is this? This is really great. This is fantastic. And this kind of shows off the fact that you can still make a good looking ship without having to be like, oh, where's the hot tub? Oh, where's the wood paneling? Oh, does it have, 1,500 logos per square meter of interior surface, reminding you that the ship you bought is from the manufacturer you bought it from in case you would forget, It's a great ship. And it's yet another step in the right direction, because there have been a few really solid steps in the right direction. The Hercules, of course, another one. Other ships that I don't want to over-mention because some people get mad when I talk about my favorite ship in the game, but it really is a huge step in the right direction. And when I see this design, some people might call it a little bland, a little mundane, but I would actually say more of this, more of starting with what is the ship supposed to do? How do we have to design it to make it best able to do what it needs to do? And then after the fact, going, all right, now that we got all that kind of set down, let's pretty it up a little. And when I saw those 2 pictures of vehicles driving up at the rear and vehicles driving out of the front, it was just like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So with that being said, Anvil Liberator. We will return with the next episode, and we will be talking about the 400i, which is kind of a different story.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, Please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.